Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Iggy's Toy Parade and Soldier Review. This is your host, Iggy. And for those of you who have recently subscribed and joined the Iggy Army, I want to thank you and give you a little shout out. Hey! That was kind of weird, but thank you, Iggy. And today I'm going to be talking about 100 Years War figures by Unimax. And Unimax brought these out under the name of Historical Legends or Legends of History or something to that effect. I've thrown away all the packaging, so that's why you should keep at least one in the package so that you can get valuable information in terms of where it was manufactured and what year and who made it and so forth. Up on the top shelf, the third tier, I have English longbowmen, and these men are equipped in a quilted waistcoat. They have a helmet, of course, and they have a little bit of armor on the knees, and they're wearing a sidearm and a small shield, small round shield that looks like a British Brodie helmet, but it's actually a shield. They would hold it in their hand and I guess use it to deflect the downward thrust of a sword. Okay, so the English longbowmen in service of the king were yeomen who were taken into service at the king's behest or at the behest of their lord. And you say, well, I thought you said they were freemen, but each order in society, whether they be yeomen or knights or lords, were required to offer military service to their lord. So a duke or a knight would owe allegiance and service to his lord. In the case of a duke, it would be the king, and in the case of a baron, it would be to the duke, and then the yeoman to the baron, all depending on where they lived. But while they were in the king's service, they were expected to train and be in shape to be combat ready at any time. Now, these yeomen are pretty well dressed. Most yeomen did not have such fancy dress as you see here, and they wouldn't be able to afford, well, maybe some of them, but most of them wouldn't have helmets or other armor to wear because it was too expensive. Okay, so let's get a close-up look at one of these archers. And you can see that he's wearing an Italian-styled helmet. Let me flip this so you can get a better view of it. See that? There you go. There's a good view of the helmet. See, it's slightly conical shaped. It has no nasal guard. And there's a protection for the neck. And he's got a hood. These guys had to march and fight in any kind of weather. But because they're on foot, they didn't bring a great deal of equipment or clothing with them. One thing I was reading about the this fictional account, what was it, Cy Clegg? Was that it? Some of my old 100th pals would be able to. Anyway, he was talking about how when he first enlisted in the army, he brought all these things with him, And it all ended up along the trail because after one day of marching with all that stuff, he's like, oh, no way. So he got rid of everything. And it's true of all centuries of warfare, you wouldn't want to bring a lot of things with you because it would just be too fatiguing. Okay, so that's our archer, our longbowman. And the next one is a longbowman who's nocking his arrow. Now, I thought it was notching an arrow, but I looked it up on Wikipedia and they said that's called nocking the arrow. My friend Cowboy Carl, his brother is a reenactor in the King's service and a longbowman, actually. And he probably would know exactly what that's called. So hopefully Heath takes a look at this and maybe leaves a comment to let us know if Iggy is mistaken again or correct. That would be nice if I was correct. And he's also wearing what's called a sallet. Sallet, I think it's Sallet. And that's like an Italian styled helmet also. Sorry, my voice is getting weird. And like I mentioned just a few minutes ago, it would be unlikely that he would have such nice things, being from a poorer class of society. Although not quite a peasant. A peasant was virtually a slave to his lord, whereas a yeoman had some freedom. He could leave the area of his lord if he wished to because he was a free man. Okay, then lastly is a knight on foot. There is some damage to this one because of being in storage. I'll show that. See how he's leaning forward? That's due to the severe shift in temperature, the chronic shift in temperatures, because it was happening year round. And so he's got a bent shield. See, his sword is bent clean around his body. Also, on their shields, they have no heraldic devices. Heraldic. Not sure how to say that. So these would be brightly colored, and they would have like lions and rampant lions and fleur-de-lis and crosses and all sorts of things to indicate who the person was. And so you have a casualty. On a battlefield, you'd be able to tell who that was. Like, oh, you go, oh, that's Baron Rothschild or somebody, because they could recognize his markings on his shield. You'll notice he's wearing a pig snout helmet, which is probably more of a French and Italian type of design than it is English, but maybe this is supposed to be a French knight. I don't know. That would make sense considering the style of helmet. Okay, and then finally, I have a knight with a jousting lance. See that cup that covers his hand? Protect his hand from the strike of his opponent's lance. And he is also wearing a pig snout helmet. Now, the pig snout was especially useful in jousting because it would deflect the strike of your opponent's lance. It's a similar principle to what they do in armored tanks. They have various slopes to deflect the missile that is striking and causing it to veer off to the left or right or whatever it may be. This one that keeps falling all the time, I'm guessing is King Henry V. And he's without a helm. And he's a nice figure. Now I have a great many more of these uh, cavalry knights, but they're in storage right now. Now I wanted to show you what the arrows looked like because they are pretty lethal. You see here, I mean, this is designed so that it would be impossible to pull it out. You would have to, in order to get this arrow out of your leg or something, you'd have to push it through. Because, and especially with this style, I mean, that would just hook into your organs or your flesh. They called a swallowtail or whitehead, and this one is a swallowtail narrowhead for obvious reasons. Then we have a chisel head and a bodkin. And the bodkin, I noticed, looks like a Phillips head screwdriver. I wonder if that's if this inspired that. And then this thing that looks like a bolt was for armor piercing. Now, when the French knights were dismounted at Agincourt, um, a lot of the bowmen, because they had limited amounts of arrows available to them, if they wanted to deliver the coup de grace to a dismounted knight, all they had to do is lift up his arm and stab him in the armpit with his dagger. And that's what many of them had done. There's an interesting book by John Keegan, and he writes about the Battle of Agincourt and how they would dispatch knights who had low ransom value. Now, a lot of knights were not killed outright, or they wanted to avoid killing. They'd rather capture them because they would get a ransom. Like when King Richard was returning from the Crusades, he was captured in Austria and held for ransom, thus forming the reason why Robin Hood was stealing. I guess it wasn't so much to give to the poor as it was to give to the Austrians to pay off King Richard's ransom. Anyway, so this is what I got for, now these I bought at Target in 2006. The last ones I bought in 2007, and then all of these figures disappeared, which is really disappointing because they were fun. And it's, if you don't have them for your collection, I highly recommend it. There's one more thing I wanted to share with you before I sign off. And that's what an illustration of what the helmets look like. And I did not mark the page because I'm not the brightest crayon on the box or the sharpest tool in the shed. Well, here's a great illustration done in 1910. It's either a etching or woodcut or pen and ink, but that's pretty cool. I like that. And I'm close to it now. Oh, God. This is great airtime, isn't it? How many times have I done this? Here we go. As I pointed out to you, the bowman here in the top. Let's take one down so we can compare it. And this is a cross section of various Italian helmet designs. And we're going to flip this guy like that. And you can see here, his helmet is slightly conical. And it's this helmet here. That's a close match right there. Then the next helmet looks like a sallet, Sallet. And I'm going to show you that guy. This is the one knocking his arrow. This is like a German style helmet. Let's show this to you here. Here's the one with a face shield. And then up here is that conical styled helmet, which I'll show you once more. Right there. Although this one is more severely shaped in that regard. Okay. All right, guys, it's time for Iggy to hit the dusty trail. Actually, it's time for Iggy to go to work. I always hate working on weekends, but that's, my fault. So if you haven't subscribed yet, I would really love to have you come and get Iggy with it. And I appreciate all of you who have. And I'm going to hit the dusty trail, and I'll meet all of you back at the ranch. Take care of each other, okay? I'll see you later, guys. Bye.